I'm excited. I've got a special guest. Her name is Barbara Carpenter. I saw an article in the paper, and I've been wanting to talk about etiquette for a long time, and there it is, bam, on the front page, lower half of the front page. And I'm like, I'm calling this woman up. I called her up, and she was so gracious to come on to the show, and I have her sitting next to me right now. Barbara, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here, and I think there's going to be a lot of great information that we're going to be giving out. We're going to be talking about etiquette, proper etiquette, because I think it's a dying skill that needs to be rejuvenated into the ute of tomorrow and today or whatever. But let me give you a little highlight here. I'm reading from the article, bits and pieces. It goes, Barbara Carpenter, Temple College professor in computer information systems, and you know exactly which, she'll tell you which fork to use when eating salad at a luncheon or a dinner, and how to place that fork on the salad plate so the server knows you're finished, or the difference in eating a heated or non-heated dinner roll. I didn't know that. Carpenter may be very knowledgeable about computers, but she's a master at etiquette. Barbara believes manners at the dinner table are sorely lacking today. I'm skipping around in the article. Barbara Carpenter has taught etiquette classes for years to girls, Boy Scouts, girls and boys at their homes, Girl Scout troops, church groups, and more. I just think it's important for people to know how to act and be appropriate in public. Amen to that. So with that opener, Barbara, anything you want to start out with? You want to say anything else about what you do? Or
Well, I teach a lot of business etiquette. I've done cotillions, wildflower bells. I've done a lot of church groups, Girl Scouts, a lot of the professional groups I've done. And so I think sometimes it's just a review because we sort of know what to do and what not to do. But I think sometimes you just have to reinforce it.
I know, but here you are, you know all this stuff, but then what got you where you started teaching it? What made this decision for you to do it? Was it just an accidental thing once or twice, then all of a sudden people say, hey, I need some help?
That was kind of it. At Temple College years ago, we had a college for kids, and we had probably a whole summer full of math camps, science camps, and we had a program for young girls like 6 to 12 doing modeling and doing some etiquette. So I was asked through our department to the group that kind of put on the summer program for kids. So I started teaching it, and then the KCN came over and did a radio or a little show on it.
Those are taboo letters.
Yes,
by
I
the
know.
way.
Sorry. So there was a little program. They interviewed me, and then I got calls from Girl Scout groups and church groups, and so I've done it just here and there over the years.
Now, this is the first time we've actually met, so I don't really know if you know a lot about me, which I probably don't. It's a good thing, too. But it's a prepper show. It started off really as a 100% prepper show, and it's evolved into what it is now. It's almost like an adult info show.
Right.
But this is very important for preparedness when it comes to going out there in the job world. Let's say you're getting out of college, or you're doing all those things you just said. You're going to different events. But I'll give you an example. My son's graduating college, applying for jobs. He was fortunate to get a great one. But there's certain things you need to do and prepare yourself for facing the real world once you get out of the house, you know? So maybe we can talk about those things, because I see these notes, these tons of notes with chock full of information, and I don't know how you want to go about this, but let's, I guess, go from the beginning. What would be your method or your concept idea of how to relay this to people who want to learn?
Well, there's etiquette. The crazy thing is it's so broad. There's formal dinner etiquette. There's casual dinner etiquette. There's classroom etiquette. There's the traditional manners that you were taught as a child. There's also the do's and don'ts of what to do on an interview, what not to do on an interview. So it's such a broad, I think, spectrum. And I think today we try to respect our elders. We try to do what's appropriate in public, and the main thing is really not to offend anybody. And actually, if you look back at how manners and how etiquette came about, it came back from morals back in the day.
I was going to ask you that question.
It came from morals, what's right and what's not right, and so we sort of know what's right and we know what's wrong. But are you going to do the right thing or not?
Let me pause you. I hope that's not bad etiquette.
Yeah.
But But if you got, how does it come about where it's a general consensus that this is not the way to do it? For example, let's use one common thing: speaking with your mouth full. How did we all come about saying that's not a good idea because the receiver of the communication was getting food splattered on their face, and
Yes.
they just didn't like that?
Yes, and it was just kind of not a very pretty sight
Okay.
to see someone, with a mouthful of food. So that kind of stuck.
There's origins to everything. So
Yes.
very interesting.
So most of the manners really came from, morals years ago. And then in the South, it's a lot. Some of the etiquette and some of the manners are different than in the North.
Yeah, I know. I'm from
a lot
New
of
York
it's
originally.
cultural, kind of in different territories, and it really depends on the function. Now we're not as formal as we used to be. When you go to church and you go to weddings and things like that, you don't see as much formal attire and things like that as you did in the past. So we're becoming a lot more, I think, less formal. A lot more relaxed in a lot of the different activities and things that we attend.
Let me ask a question on that. You go to church, you used to get your best Sunday clothes. When I went to church, I downgraded. It's just because it was so lax around here, that's kind of the way it was.
Yes.
But when you think about it, aren't you, in that particular sense, going to church, you're dressing out of reverence and respect for Him, not for them, right?
Exactly.
So, I'm just wondering how we lost that.
Yeah, and it's and
I'm guilty, ladies and gentlemen. I'm
yes,
guilty.
and there is no dress code. So sometimes in the workplace there's a dress code. Sometimes at schools there's a dress code. So people just have to feel and dress the way they're comfortable and what suits them. So there's not. I mean, that's not. I'm not saying that's wrong, but we used to be a lot more formal in just a lot of the things that we did than we are today.
Think about
Just
it.
in general.
If you're formal, you're allowed to get lax.
Yes.
But if you're lax, where do you go from there?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to reverse that opposite direction.
And we had talked about this before
Yes.
we got on the air. I was making a comment about how it's gotten to this point. How do you reverse it? And I'm thinking there's a lot of people out there who are still into the proper etiquette and the formalities and all that. And those who remain need to hold people to a higher standard. They need to say, listen. And I know some people in the community, I'm specifically speaking about one, but I'm not going to mention the name. He should be retired by now, but he runs a tight ship, and he's very proper, and he's very formal, and he's very courteous, and his employees and his staff and all that kind of mimic him because he leads by example, which I think is fantastic. And I think if more people like that did that, more people would say, more people coming up would say, I want to get this good job, I want to be of high standard, and they have a good leader to teach them. It's all good things. So we need to start pushing the people, still have those good etiquette standards to teach it to others.
Yeah, and I think it's setting your expectations. So in a classroom, I teach, I'm a professor at a community college, Temple College, so I set expectations, and students have to know what your expectations are. And you want to set those at what level you think you need to have those, so high expectations. And so I think in etiquette and manners, I think too in the workplace that the employees have to know, what those expectations are, so they are comfortable. They're not offending someone in the workplace, and that's, I think, real important. And of course, you have a whole notebook of, employee policies and things like that. And so there's everything from cell phone usage to computer usage to, those types of things that we look for in the workplace. So I think if you set it high, that's a good thing. And then you gain that respect, and you have to earn that respect. It's not just given to you; you have to earn that. So, your actions and first impressions. It takes 2 seconds to make a first impression.
That's why clean your cars, everybody. It's the first thing they see.
So it's really evident. For example, I tell my students that are applying for jobs, don't take a phone to an interview. You don't want them to see you on your phone in the lobby. You don't want them to see you come and set the phone on the table during the interview. It should be not even there, because sometimes they think that's a lack
Barbara,
of
you know
trust.
what I'm noticing though? A lot of the people who are doing the interviews got the phone on the table.
Yeah, that's
So
a no-go.
that's what I was talking about, the dilution, the diluting, whatever the proper form of that word is, the diluting of the etiquette
Yeah.
is not being taught by those in charge because they've been diluted. So it's a massive stop, turn around type of deal. If you go to a company that has a standard and you know it, it's much easier to mold in as compared to being there and then a new set of standards come into play. People are going to rebel against you because it's just, hey, I'm not used to this. Well, sorry, that's the way it works. I'll give you an example. Where I work, new leadership comes in. I used to boast what I thought on my shirts. Very, it was either a Christian memo or some type of gun enthusiast type of deal. I was told to neutralize it. And I said, I get it. Keep it neutral so I don't offend anybody because I don't want to represent the company in a certain way.
Right.
So I get that. But I'll tell you what, time has a tendency to sneak away from us. You've got a nice list here. Why don't you just give an idea to people? If you can look at the time based on your notes, let's go through it and save me about 2 or 3 minutes for some of the ones that I got.
Okay.
Now let's talk about this.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a few general table manners. Your mom taught you when you were young, don't put your elbows on the table, don't talk with your mouth full. Those are pretty common. If you come to the table with gum in your mouth, that's also a no-no. You should put it in a sweet and low packet and put that sweet and low packet out of sight. If you pass something, you should always pass it to the right. You're going to be served from the left. The waitstaff is going to pick up your meal on the right. And your place setting, everything to the left is solid, like your bread plates to the left of your dinner plate. And to the right are your drinks. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes.
You're talking, what if the wait staff doesn't know the etiquette?
They will know the etiquette.
They will?
Yes.
Depending on where they work, right?
Yes, they do. They do training. Now, if you're in a booth and they have to pass your plate, at a restaurant, but in a nice restaurant where you've got linen tablecloths and place settings, those wait staff have been through extensive training. They know how to open a wine bottle and they know how to serve, and so you'll see that's pretty common. And they have their own rules, for wait staff. So when you are eating, the first thing you should do is put your napkin in your lap, and the fold should be, in your lap where you can open it, and wipe your mouth. You shouldn't blow your nose at the table. Ladies should not put on makeup at the table. They should be excused. If you're seating if you're a gentleman and your significant other is with you, female, they're seated to the right. You pull their chair out, seat them. If they need to be excused, you get up and pull their chair back. And you don't see that a lot. Just like you open doors, ladies are first on elevators. That's pretty common. Yes.
Just so you know, I raised my hand so I wouldn't interrupt you. But Barbara, I'm the type of guy, I've got tons of questions, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but explain, there's a reason for everything. Why is the fold to you? I have an idea why it is, but why is the fold to you and then the open end is towards away from you?
So you can easily open it and blot your mouth.
There you go. See?
So there's a reason for that. If the fold is here, it's just not as easy to get it to your mouth.
Gotcha. Okay.
And of course, when you're eating, you bring the fork to your mouth, not your mouth to the fork. So when you're finished with
that's
an
interesting
entree,
because
you don't shovel it in.
I would think though, if here's a table, and I'm bringing the food here, I'm always afraid that it's going to drop.
Yep.
In case it does drop, it goes over.
So you've got that napkin right there.
I'm a slob.
So you're using that napkin.
All right, good.
And then once you use the utensil, it never touches the table. So when you say if you have a main course and a salad, you're going to have 2 forks on the left. The outside fork is going to be for the salad, and if you're not for sure, you always do outside, inside. So if you've got 2 forks, in some point, sometime the salad fork is smaller. It's going to be left to the main course plate, and so that salad fork is going to be used for salad. When you're finished with your salad, usually you would put it 11 o'clock diagonal, and that lets the wait staff know you're finished.
I have another question.
Yes.
Is the salad fork lighter due to the fact it's a lighter material that you're picking up with it?
Yeah, usually it's just smaller because you're just doing, like lettuce and so forth. It's not, as like having to be heavy duty, like to cut meat or something like that. Also, when your plate is placed in front of you, the protein is right in front. So they'll take that plate and turn it so your meat, your chicken, your protein is right in front of you. Because it's easier to cut that versus reaching over. And the wait staff is never going to cross their arm across a guest. That's why they serve on the left and pick up on the right. So if you have
watch that, ladies and gentlemen. Watch
so
it now.
They're going to serve on the left, pick up on the right. So on the left would be your bread plate. on the right would be your your water, your tea, your wine, whatever the drinks are. And the left-hand side would be your salad fork and your main course fork. On the right-hand side, you may have two knives, one for the salad, one for the main course. Usually the dessert utensil is up above the plate. If it's cake, it's going to be a fork. If it's, pudding or ice cream, it's going to be a spoon.
Say that again.
The dessert utensil is right above the plate, normally.
On the table.
On the table.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that.
So when you finish a course, you're going to lay your utensils about 11 o'clock across the plate, and usually the wait staff are going to take those items away. So when you finish the course, there's nothing else on the table. A lot of times at a formal dinner, there's a program, an awards, or a speaker or something afterwards. So the idea is to get everything off the table except we leave the drinks, so that you have some elbow room, because you're going to be sitting in that same space, usually to for a program or an awards or something.
Makes sense.
So everything is gone. So when you get done, you have the empty space. Also, since you put your utensils on the plate and not on the tablecloth, there's no messy
areas, right?
There's no messy
Now, I don't know if I'm
sauces or
getting-
gravies.
I don't know if I'm getting ahead of you here, but I'm just watching the clock. In the article, I read something about a cold biscuit as compared to a warm
Yes.
biscuit.
If the bread is cold, you don't butter the whole thing. So if it's passed around, it's passed to the right. You place your roll or bread on the bread and butter plate. Usually you would use the outside knife to butter the bread. You tear a piece and butter it, tear a piece and butter it. You would never eat the whole buttered roll. If it's warm, you can tear it, never cut it. You can tear it and you can butter the entire thing, and it always goes on the bread and butter plate. However, you still tear it, and you never tear more than 2 bites.
I'm assuming the reason it's different for a warm one is so you can take advantage of the heat to melt
Yes.
the butter. Okay.
Because you want your butter melted on your roll.
Okay. All right.
So it's hot or cold, doesn't matter. You still pinch off about a 2-inch bite at a time.
So gnawing at it's not the way to go. Okay.
Picking it up like a
Okay.
hamburger is not good manners.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Keep going. You're doing great.
And so if you're looking at asking for something at the table, the gentleman should ask more butter, more rolls. Usually the gentleman takes that into the responsible party of requesting something from the wait staff. If you say finish your meal, you should slightly fold your napkin, place it to the right. You should never leave it in the chair. You should not put it on the left, and you should not put it on the plate.
If I remember reading correctly, you said putting it on the left is a temporary movement.
I'm going to come back. I'm going to be excused and
But
come
on
back.
the right, everything's done on the
I'm
right.
done. Yes.
Okay.
And you should not leave it in the chair. Also, seasoning your food. If you season your food before you taste it, that's kind of a slap in the face to the chef, because they've used herbs and spices, and so you should always taste it first before you season it, which is really a thing that we, sometimes we just put a ton of salt and pepper on it and without thinking, but you should really taste it first to make sure that it's, needing that seasoning before you actually use it.
This is weird. This really excites me because it's honor to certain people. It's honor to everybody. It's honor to yourself. It's honor to other people. And what's wrong with that?
Yes.
It's really good. Okay, keep going.
And if you're at a banquet or a formal dinner and there's 6 or 8 or 10 at a table, you should not begin eating until everybody has their food. Sometimes if you're at a
You
dinner,
hear that, guys?
Yep. Ladies, and then ladies are always served first. So in a table at a banquet or a formal dinner, you'll notice that even though they're serving left to right, they're going to serve the ladies first at the table, then come back and serve the gentlemen. And normally if there's a guest or a host, they're going to tell you, go ahead and start eating so your food doesn't become cold, especially if it's a hot meal and they don't want you sitting and waiting for everybody to be served.
Barbara, I got a question. What about these women who want to feel equal to men?
That's true.
What do we do about that
in
problem?
the South, ladies are first. It's a very Southern thing, I think.
But wait, they might be offended.
No, they're not offended. No,
Yeah.
they're not offended.
Yeah, they play. Okay, whatever.
I think it's always good for a man. It's always good to be a gentleman, opening doors, letting ladies on elevators first. Doing the same thing at the grocery store. Someone drops something, pick it up for them. I think a lot of the times the manners is really just being nice.
One time,
Doing your duty for the day.
A long time ago, when I was in high school, I was on a date, and I opened up door for this girl. I would open up. She goes, I can open my own door. I'm like, fine. She opened it up herself, caught it on some hook, ripped the back pocket off of her pants. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I think, sometimes I was raised, I had 3 brothers. Okay. So I was the only girl and I had 3 brothers. And so, I think having 3 brothers, I get it. A lot of times, guys are in a hurry and they don't think too much. But I think today, a lot of the men are gentlemen. They want to open doors. They just do it as a nice gesture. When you're in the grocery store, if you've got a mom with a stroller, you're going to help, can I open that door for you? And so I think it's really just a lot about being nice and not offending someone. And we don't have to be on our, it's not a nerve-wracking thing. I think if you just think about it, it becomes more natural than having to try to be nerve-wracked at a dinner, like which fork do I pick up, or you can always watch and see what everybody else is doing, but it's we don't like them to be just nerve-wracked about it. We like it to be kind of just a natural thing, so you kind of know.
We've got a couple more minutes. Keep going, and then we'll go on my list here.
Okay.
I think we're all right. Let me just make sure we don't have Master Cindy Key coming in, because she likes to physically abuse me.
Uh-oh.
Nope, we're good.
So ladies are always served first. At a formal dinner, you should never ask for ketchup. That's kind of a slap in the face to the chef. Usually there's some kind of sauce or gravy or that sort of thing served. So you definitely you don't want to ask for ketchup. It is okay to ask for more butter or ask for bread. If you drop your napkin, the wait staff should automatically come and bring you another one.
Barbara, what if you like ketchup?
That's the thing. You like ketchup, and it's not meant to be at a formal dinner, because at a formal dinner we've got steak. We don't have fried chicken. We don't have French fries. So usually a formal dinner is more of a meal that you wouldn't have at a casual dinner. So you don't see much fried chicken.
It's like when you go to a formal event, you're going to wear a tuxedo. It may not be comfortable, but you're going to wear it. So when you're getting your steak, you're not going to put ketchup on it. That's just the way it goes. Okay.
They're going to have some cool sauce, that you're going to use instead. Also, you should not have your cell phone on the table. And a lot of us are really horrible mannered with cell phones. You should not ever talk on your cell phone in a restaurant at a table. You walk in a restaurant and everybody is on their cell phone. You should not talk on your cell phone in a restroom, public restroom. If you do need to use your cell phone and you are at a restaurant, you should be excused and you should go outside.
Well, I lost you on the public restroom. What's the reason behind that?
Because you should, when you take a phone call, you should be in private. Period. And so nobody wants to hear your drama. Nobody wants to listen to you. So it's really better to go outside and you have a private minute to take that phone call.
Okay. Anything that you definitely want to go over before I cut you off and go over my list of 10?
I would just say that when you finish one of the courses, you would lay your silverware, your utensils, 11 o'clock, and that lets the wait staff know they're going to pick it up on the right. And it's okay to ask for things that you may need to have. And a lot of it is just, enjoying the company. And at a table, too, you should watch your conversation at dinner. Sometimes you want to not talk about things like politics, for example. You want to have what they call casual conversation. So you want to...
What is it? Politics, sex, religion, right?
Yeah, those things you sometimes are kind of taboo to talk about at a formal dinner. You really want to more or less just talk about casual conversation.
Okay, fantastic.
Keep that light.
I've got... You and I were texting back and forth, and these are probably pet peeves as compared to proper etiquette, but it can also apply to that as well. I'll read it and then you make a comment.
Okay, gotcha.
Let's see, top of my head here. Number 1, not putting car seat back to the way you found it. Let me tell you why I said that. I'm a big guy. You got a short person driving the car, and if you're a short person and the seat's up, and then I got to get in there, it's a major hassle. Why don't you explain on that one?
Well, my car has settings, so it has my setting where it changes automatically. So a lot of cars are that way now. You don't have to do that. But yeah, it's if you borrow something, use something, and you change something, you should put it back the way it was before you borrowed it. So whether you're using somebody's scissors, you should put them back. whether you're driving somebody else's car, you should put it back.
Makes
and that's
sense to
kind
me.
of common.
Number 2, toilet seat. Up, down, what's the deal?
Down.
We
Ladies.
talking the lid too, or just the seat?
The seat for sure down at all times. And your toilet paper is over, not under.
Oh gosh, I hate that.
So, and again, that's because, ladies.
All right, blowing, picking your nose. I don't
Don't
even
do
know
those
why.
in
I don't even know
public.
why I got to
Yeah.
say that.
Don't do those in public.
Chewing with mouth open. We talked about that.
We talked about that.
Talking with mouth full. We talked about that. I'm not gonna say that one. Belching. In some countries, it's favorable. It's favorable to the cook.
Yes. In our country, no. You should not belch anywhere out loud or in public, especially at the table.
All right. One time for one more thing. Let me see here. How about the handshaking? Too hard, too soft. I know some guys want to just show their strength, and some women want to firm, but some, like, I'll give you an example. Up in New York, where I'm from, originally, you take a woman's hand, but it's different than you do it down here. A woman down here likes it full handshake.
Shake.
Up there, it's the fingertips. It's to show courtesy. I'm not going to try and overpower you.
Handshake should be firm for men and ladies.
How much time I got?
About 15 seconds.
Should be firm, not too
Okay.
loose, not too tight, just firm.
Maybe we can get you back on. How about that?
Perfect.
Barbara Carpenter, she's awesome. Proper etiquette. Ladies and gentlemen, keep your powder dry. God bless. See you next week.
Thank you.